So, iterating the timeline. So, it's really important that we think about our expectations and we manage them correctly. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That sort of, I think that's kind of come from the Forces quote. Um, if you rush things, you'll tend to do them badly. Whereas if you take your time and build up habits and things slowly, it becomes a lot more real. Having said that, if you go too slowly, you don't change anything. So you have to like pick your battles purposefully, make yourself a little challenge week to week, set a little goal, move along the timeline in good process. Okay. We do expect undulating and stair step progression. So what that means is, it goes up and down. Your weight tracks very regularly. If you've ever tracked your weight for a week, it will just fluctuate. So that's just something you have to be aware of, particularly morning, evening, what you've eaten, what you haven't eaten, what you've trained, what you haven't trained, all adds up. We also expect some sort of stair step progression. So coming across, drop down, coming across, drop down. Sometimes that takes longer than you want it to. So we might see that progress over a week, but sometimes it's 10 days, sometimes it's 14 days. And so you just have to keep steady, be very sort of stoic with it, very methodical with it. Take your time, work down a step or two. What's important for the long term is that you work with, not against plateaus and diet breaks. A lot of people hit a plateau and then they get really frustrated. They just stop doing everything, then they overeat, or they get to a holiday and then just everything goes. Okay, so with that in mind, plan in a bit of time. So I've kind of put here a scheduled maintenance phase. So like we said about the calories, you'd just take off the 10% adjuster and you'd hopefully readjust for your new body weight. But have a maintenance phase, 3 to 7 days. It might just be a long weekend, every 6 weeks or so, just to sort of normalize your hormones, your mindset around what you're doing, and then get back on track. So you have to kind of work with that phase. Maintenance is a good goal. Not gaining weight is a good goal if your goal is to lose weight. Okay. And then we spoke about managing expectations. So, when I look at people's weight loss and they get a pound a week, I think that's brilliant. I really applaud that. Like, you've done the work, you've made it work, you've taken your time, and it's all fitting together. I think when people want these quick fixes, because there are quick fixes, you could just completely stop eating and do multiple marathons a day. It's quite a horrible existence if you do that. And so you've really got to think bigger picture. Can you sustain this? Do you want to sustain this? Is this something that will last multiple goes? And that's the thing about iterating, multiple goes. You're not going to get it perfect first time, particularly if you're iterating around real life, kids, family commitments, holidays, work situations. You have to factor all these things in and the differences in your training as well. So what I kind of propose is that as you take yourself along a timeline, track and learn about what you're eating, just be really mentally involved, okay, or as mentally involved as you can manage. Really important, this, couldn't stress it enough. Understand you need to be hungry. Probably should have underlined it, because I think a lot of people come to me and they say, oh, I just bumble along through the day, and then when I get hungry, I eat. I said, oh, well, why? So, oh, because I thought I was supposed to eat when I'm hungry. Well, that's the time when you would have been losing fat because you were hungry, and then you've just let it go on too long. That is slightly different to when people's blood sugars drop, and you might describe them as hangry. And this is typically why I like people to eat enough fat, is that that sort of hanger sensation is a drop in. So that's hungry and angry. It's a drop in blood sugars due to mismanagement and constant loading and unloading of blood sugars through the body. Trying to level everything out is really helpful. Okay. Important that you stick to this long enough. It is a process and it has a timeline. You've got to keep going and then calibrate once you've done the work. Okay. You can only know if you should calibrate something if you've tracked something at least reasonably. And this is why, for me, to take out that element of having to track all the time, I just write very simple diets, and that's the only food I buy. So that's all I'm ever going to do. I appreciate a lot more people need a lot more variation or some sort of change to that. But if you're going to add a lot of complexity to your routine, then you need to make sure it's the right amount of stuff. So come up with sort of different sets of meal plans. And this is something AI is brilliant at. Type into Google, I make me a meal with these ingredients, with these macros. It'll tell you exactly what you need. I'm more than happy to help you do that, but really start to upskill and learn what you can do. Cool. So we're talking about metrics and the process, and this, as far as our process, is the main thing. Just manage that expectation. Slow loss is good loss because it's consistent and it's something you can manage over time. So keep going, keep it steady, and just make sure you are mentally invested for the long term. Okay, so there we go. That was pretty much a nice little wrap up of my general framework.